this was sent to me by other Chris the mod, Chris the guy who edits a ton of the stuff that goes over on the YouTube, that we film a lot of it over on Twitch Monday through Friday. When we're streaming, we usually do something fun to talk about in the morning and in the evening, and if there's not news, then we can do like reactions or discussions or whatever else is coming along. Obviously the big news being to make sure that you've registered for your possible FanFest tickets. Super exciting. So thank you guys to all of you that support me on both platforms. Let's get started. And instead of going through this, I was told I could just save some time, because by the time this made it to me and we had a chance to sit down and talk about it, the amazing Mr. Happy had already reacted to it. So we can just react to his reaction and see where he's at. But I have the game up in the background just in case there's anything I want to check out and go experience in case he doesn't already do it.
Now, as many of you know, I've played Final Fantasy XIV since back in 1.0, and given that I've made so much content about the game on YouTube, I think a lot of people think that I just know everything about Final Fantasy XIV. Truth of the matter is like many of you, there are things I forget or don't know, and I learn some of those things every now and again. Well, someone told me about this Reddit thread that popped up a little bit less than a day ago as of recording, that's called "What is something that took you an embarrassingly long time to discover?" 632 comments as I'm looking at it now. And we have this initial post. For myself, I didn't realize there were inns in Kugane and Ishgard until after I started Endwalker. Anytime I needed to go to an inn, I'd go to Limsa or Crystarium. You know,
I still prefer the Gridania Inn to all inns.
fair, I never went to the Ishgard or Kugane Inn, or at least not any time that I can remember. But this is an interesting premise, because if there's anything I've learned in making videos, is that there's a ton of things people just don't know about Final Fantasy XIV, or just don't have enough insight into. And if there's anything that they post that you didn't know, be sure to give them credit where credit's due, because there's gotta be something in here. And I'm sure it's gonna be crafting or gathering related, but let's check it out. All right, so let's just go straight to the first comment. You can drag crafting recipes onto... I didn't know. Well, that didn't take very long. I said...
Okay, there's a lot of things you can grab. You can drag a lot of things. You can drag, of course, your actions and traits. That does include your general, like desynthesis can go on a bar. Materia extraction can go on a bar. That means that if you wanted to, your dungeon journal could go on a bar. That also means that things like your various role actions and all of that, as well as, of course, things like macros. There are a ton of things you can drag onto a bar.
Drag that? No way. You can drag... I didn't even know you could do that! That was mind-blowing!
And that is me in the past, learning that you could even drag your hunt marks onto the bar. Because what you can actually do is you can go in and you can go to basically like any menu, and you can just drag the whole menu onto your bar. Anything you want can jump on up. However, I never, ever, ever thought in my wildest dreams about dragging this onto a bar. It's got a little neat logo, and I click it, and it pulls it up. I can't even fathom why I would have tried it. Like, in what world is somebody just dragging things on bars? Is there anything we can't drag onto a bar?
Okay, yeah, the comment right there. I was today years old when I found that out. I've been playing since launch. Thank you. I guess that's just video over. I learned something new pretty much immediately. I don't do like any crafting at all. Like I have crafted. Oh, you know, I saw this one actually not too long ago. I didn't know you can sell cards you already own for MGP until someone casually mentioned it in the WAD raid. I played the game for almost a year then. Yeah, no, I know a lot of people. Sometimes when I'm live and I just go to the NPC and sell them, people say, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I think there's also a check mark next to them if you already have them in the UI. So that's another thing I think a lot of people miss. It might...
Before the UI check mark, though, this menu already had the "Is it in your deck?"
This one, yeah, ouch. Ouch is right. Tombstone Gear had accessories. Didn't find this out until I beat Stormblood and was in 4.1. one. I'll give them a little bit of credit. So
No. That's the worst vendor ever. Don't show that one. Don't show that one. Okay, so he's in ARR. After an expansion becomes a legacy expansion. So when we move from Endwalker into 7.0, in Old Sharlayan, next to the Aetheryte, we are going to get a vendor. And to prove this, let's go back to Shadowbringers. We're going to go to the Crystarium. And as I go to the Crystarium, yes, during an expansion, you have to go to the vendor. We're in the secondary city, like what he's showing. So that's your Mordona, Idleshire, Yulmore, you know, that sort of place. There is what is called a Sundry Splendors vendor. Sundry Splendors vendor. This is way faster if you're gearing alts. You open this up, and look at how clean it is. I can select my category. I would like to buy gear for a ninja because they're all alone. And I can decide what gear do I want. I want the highest item level available for Poetics. And there it is. Are they in my bag? How much do they cost? You know what? For cosmetic reasons, I want the other one. They cost the same. They're just worse. The Splendors vendor is amazing. This is your guy. But by all means, continue.
Because there's not really a tutorial for Tombstone gear. You kind of just have to click through the different tabs. And if you never click the accessory tab, then I guess it makes sense that you would never know that they were there. I wonder if they have considered adding, because you can like click through tabs that don't have anything, I think, on a lot of the NPCs that deal with currencies. I wonder if they just...
It's why I like the Splendors vendor better. The Sundry Splendors vendor is just cleaner laid out. You don't end up with tabs on tabs on tabs, and you need to know which tabs are actually helpful.
This is one that I always tell people. Aetheryte tickets exist and are surprisingly easy to get. I don't know how much I spent on teleports, but I started when Heavensward was present content and just discovered tickets 2 months ago. Aetheryte tickets are one of the biggest reasons why I have so much gil. I haven't paid for a teleport in like 8 years now. But essentially you can exchange the old world hunt currencies, the allied seals and centurio seals, for Aetheryte tickets at an exchange rate of 5 seals to 1 ticket. So even just doing your weekly hunts, you know, at the boards and doing your blue mage every week, just going into the carnival, you get a bunch of free teleports. If you just go to a few old world S ranks or even just kill the occasional A rank, that's just free teleports on free teleports on free teleports. So that's definitely a big one. And if you don't do the hunt, even the old world hunts, I would highly advise getting involved if you're tired of paying for teleports.
As a side note on that, there is a secondary thing that was in the comment below that, and that is that you can decide how often you want to spend them. So if you're somebody who does not do that much to get teleport tickets, then actually right here in game, if you open up your teleport menu, there's a little gear here. This is a relatively recent feature, and it will say use your Aetheryte tickets only when they're at a certain threshold. I'm currently out, so they're easy enough to get. And so I was at the time, as I was running low, I said only use them if it's going to save me at least 1,000 gil. You can also say always use, never use, etc. So wherever you would like to have your threshold be, the threshold was a massively wonderful upgrade to that. Very, very, very cool.
Arm's length slows down how often an enemy attacks you, not their movement speed. I've seen people just not even know that it has another effect other than the knockback. Essentially, people get like secondhand knowledge. Oh, arm's length is really important for knockback resist, and then they never look at it. But arm's length is one of the most like underrated defensive cooldowns as a tank. It is phenomenally good, especially when paired with weaker personal cooldowns when you're doing wall to walls and back to back wall to walls. So highly advise using arm's length as a tank when you are pulling dungeons.
This creates a barrier nullifying most knockback effects. That's why most people use it. For the duration of 6 seconds, however, it has an additional effect to slow, not burdened, not to actually slow their speed, but to slow their attack speed by 20%. And so what that means is when you pull a lot of stuff, this is amazing. When you pair this with, things that reduce damage taken or whatever, like this is massive. So when you're pulling wall to wall, this means that your healer has 20% more time between you getting hit to heal the hit you just took. Massive, massive difference. If it actually slowed them down, it would be called heavy. So there is a big difference there. It's not immediately clear. It is very logical that people get that wrong. This is a mitigation that if tanks are feeling that pulling faster makes them nervous, if healers are feeling that tanks are dying too fast to pull more often, arm's length is one of the go-to reasons that they're missing. Odds are they know about the other parts of their kit. Odds are they are popping Rampart and all of that. Keep in mind that while you're at it, Reprisal has a 5-yard radius. So if you actually pop arm's length and Reprisal at the same time while you're surrounded by that, everybody within 5 yards is now going to reduce the amount of damage by 10%, as well as how often they attack by 20%.
I just recently found out that you can also vendor stuff out of retainer. That's that hasn't always been there. And honestly, even though you can do that, a lot of the times I just don't. I still kind of like out of habit go from my retainer to NPCs to vendor sometimes. I've started getting a little bit better at it, actually, very recently.
This is probably the single hill I am most likely to die on. Like, stop selling things below vendor at the market board. And people tell me, well, the reason I do it is that I don't want to have to go and vendor it. I'd rather sell it for a loss on the market board. Stop doing that. Let's go buy something that's being sold below vendor. There we go. Below vendor. Lots of things below vendor. Stop doing that. So I can say, I would like to sell items in my inventory on the market. Can have my inventory. Put up for sale. The default price is the vendor price, which is available in your tooltip. Sells for 159 gil. It also tells you right there if it's sold at a shop or anything like that. So if it's something that you can buy from a vendor, it will tell you. And it can be sold right there for 159 gil, which means if I listed this at 159, the market will take a tax of 5%, in this case 7 gil, away from that. So now, instead of getting the vendor price of 159, I will wait some amount of time in the future, could be hours, could be days, could be weeks, for the privilege of making less money than if I had just sold it to a vendor right then and there. And I will be taking up one of my 20 listing spots on my retainer. So what is my alternative? I could go right here and I could say sell, and off it goes. I get my 159 gil right now. Right now, there it is. Now, what if you regret that? Oh my God, I just vendored something and I didn't mean to. Item buyback is in the previous menu and I may have it back.
Do you know that when you hold control with the map open, the teleports are highlighted? Yeah, this is something... You know, it's funny, I knew this for a very long time, but much like with the retainer being able to sell, I just didn't do it. It's one of those things, sometimes you just can't convince your brain to do things in a more efficient manner. But yeah, if you hold control with the map open, the teleports basically get brought to the front so they're easier to click. It's less that they're highlighted and more that they're brought to the front above any other icons that are on the map. Now,
this is something I only need on my story alt, because your only other way you can do it is you can literally just clear the whole zone. And so on my main, I have all the quests cleared from all of these zones, and so they get a lot cleaner just as a zone. But every once in a while when you zoom out, it gets a little bit cluttered because there's all this stuff. Control specifically targets Aetherytes. Specifically Aetherytes. You can see them popping, and that allows those to be easier to click. Otherwise it's like, well, do you want the leave meat or any of that? And that will automatically make that the easier click. So it's a handy little thing. I use it when I'm going through, if you're ever replaying the story on another character, and so you don't want to clear a bunch of stuff, or if you're somebody who doesn't like doing side quests, and so when you get into some of these zones, especially newer zones like Endwalker, there's like 13,000 side quests sitting right inside the quest hub. Very, very handy.
Another thing, when you hold control and right click, you can put down a flag. And I actually use that as a little trick inside of raids. If you're like doing Party Finder a lot and you're constantly changing position and you need like an extra visual reminder that, oh, in the last party I was southwest, but in this party I'm southeast, I put a little flag down. 100+ hours into the game, I thought you could only use the big Aetheryte in towns to go to the small ones. So I keep running or teleporting back to it to teleport to the small ones. You know, I also have weird habits, and not quite like that, because that's just not knowing how it works. But I sometimes just run through towns. A part of me kind of likes the idea of running through town. You know, it's a little bit more immersive than just teleporting all over the place. But yeah, I know it's a system pretty specific to 14. So depending on how much you paid attention during the intro quest, or if you skip them altogether, that's something you could miss.
When you're using the Aethernet, first of all, the new Endwalker update where you can like see them and I can click the different ones, I can just click there. That's way better. Once you get all the Aethernets in a city, you will know you got them all when the gates appear. These only appear when you have all of them. And so if you are missing one on an alt, that's how you know.
I was 5 raid tiers deep in this game before I learned about the limited setting. Yo, I can't imagine what it looks like doing some things on full. I just can't imagine it at all. Dude.
We actually did this during Delibram, when you had to run a lot of the Delibram raids back to back. I turned my spell effects to max, I turned my HUD off, and we cleared Delibram Regine, no HUD, max spell effects. It is a blast. And so if we ever go back to getting like relic rated, based raids and things like that you're going to need to clear 30 times and you know them like the back of your hand, it is wildly fun. And you turn those spell effects up. I believe there are also ways to build that into a macro to start messing with different settings, such as audio and all that. And it would not shock me if there's a macro command to adjust spell effects. If you're somebody who wants to have it on for certain types of content, maybe you like it on in hunts, you can turn off your HUD and just watch the laser light show. And then you don't want it on when you're like actually doing content where you'd like to see what the heck is going on, because it is just, it's so unbelievably intense. So you would want a macro to kind of do that.
You can buy untradeable minions from a magic pot on the Isle of Umbra for an elixir or high elixir. Had no idea this NPC existed. It's still kind of weird where that NPC is and why. The rewards are fairly useful. People use them, or used to use them more so for lighting purposes, for screenshots, and you sometimes still can. But yeah, there's a couple of free minions just over in the Isle of Umbra, and I'm sure plenty of people don't know that. So if you're...
I found out about it because the Square Enix team, there was a bingo card and stuff like that, and I was trying to do some Lala achievements, and I don't know, somewhere in there I went through this massive accrual phase where my goal was to acquire minions. I was data center traveling and all of that, and so I was jumping around and around and around. So I actually have those minions, but I was going and grinding, like the goal was to get like as many minions as I can. However, chat has just said something about those minions I did not know. All right, I have been told that if you slash poke them, what? It goes higher and higher? So they're not just a light source, you can poke them to change the height. Alright. As for things that I know that a lot of people don't end up using, that changed my life when I found them out, the first is people that always want more materia around. And they don't know that this little thing right here, wherever you have it on your UI, is that's your armory. And it determines, and the color here is determined by how much durability is left on your gear. And if you repair your own gear, it adds 100%. So these are at 79%. I'm going to repair them. And now they are at 179%. So repaired gear, from even if it's repaired by another player, actually adds a ton to the condition there. But below that is Spirit Bond. Spirit Bond, when it's at 100%, used to be able to destroy the gear and get materia. But now you don't even destroy the gear anymore. So you can just extract that. And your Spirit Bond, when it hits 100%, this turns white. Oh, here we go. The eye search command. This leveled all of your retainers just by throwing stuff everywhere. You regretted it and sorted it all out. All right. So I have an item in my inventory, or if somebody links one, I can right click, I can say search for item, and it will tell me everywhere that it is across every inventory accessible to me. My armory chest, equipped, saddlebag, armoire, glamour dresser, and all of my retainers. Very, very, very cool. The problem then is what happens if I know that I want craftsman competence materia 9, but I don't know where it is. I'm 99% sure I have some, but where is it? So that's I search. And I'm going to say Craftsman's. I push that, and it tells me every item that it found that I own that has Craftsman's in the name. That's Alkalis, Drafts, Materia. Oh my gosh, I just remembered it's Materia. So I can say it's... And then I can take any one of these, and I can right-click and say search that item. We can just bypass that, and there it is. Also, if I know its competence, I can... It doesn't have to jump in order. It's just like it's just like the market board. So if you are going to put multiple words, they do need to be in order. But I can type competent, and then it pulls up anything with competent in it. So it pulled up competent, Craftsman's Draft. Also, the fact that I keep 7s, 9s, and 10s on me. So, pretty cool. iSearch is pretty powerful. But interesting Reddit thread. There's all sorts of things I learn regularly in this game. There will continue to be things I learn. Some of them will be relatively new. Some of them will be wildly old. Maybe it's in a type of content you haven't done. Or maybe you just found a way that something works. And that's been good enough. And you've never asked yourself, like, well, when do I do something different? Is there a better way? And that's usually how I feel most like dumb about this, is that I'm complaining to a friend or on stream or something like that. I'm like, God, the thing that drives me nuts is that we have to do this way. And then somebody goes, but you don't. But you, like, why? I guess I just thought you liked doing it that way. You don't have to do that.